Hello, my name is Andrei Petaha. Let me show you how I use bots that I developed that use capabilities of ChatGPT in order to perform project management operational activities. Right now, I want to show you the scenario how I use bot with ChatGPT to boost my sprint planning and sprint preparation activities. If you are a project manager who has experience with Scrum methodology, you know that during sprint planning, it is better to know team's capacity for the next sprint in order to be more accurate during the planning. There are different approaches how to calculate team's capacity, but one of the approaches that I use is calculation of sprint capacity based on the average velocity in story points. So usually, I take amount of story points delivered in the last 2 or 3 sprints and calculate average velocity. Then, based on the average velocity, I define team's capacity in order to plan sprint. In the current example, you can see that I created fake sprints with fake data in order to have some data for the use case that I want to demo. I closed 3 sprints with the user stories, and I received the following data. In the sprint number 1, my team delivered 16 story points. In the sprint number 2, my team managed to complete 14 story points. And in the sprint 3, also 14 story points. We are going to use this data in our example in order to review end-to-end scenario. And now imagine that I have a conversation in Slack Messenger with my team members or with my Scrum Masters, and I just want to get more information about the average velocity. I need this information to hold planning. I can just ask my bot in chat what is the average velocity based on the previously completed 3 sprints. And I receive a response, 14.67 story points, which is correct based on the data we reviewed from Jira. I can clarify the average velocity based on the previous 2 sprints. And the answer is 14 story points. That is also correct, because in sprint 2 and sprint 3, my team delivered 14 story points per each sprint. And I know that I can open velocity chart in Jira and take information from there, but what if this is a live chat and I want to receive information faster? And this scenario is very simplified demo, because in reality, you can integrate these commands into more complex scenarios, like email preparation and its auto-generation, reports generation, and many other different generation scenarios. But even using it in chat is pretty comfortable. Knowing this information, I can proceed with planning. But in order you can understand the use case, let me show you how my backlog looks like now. In my backlog, I already have estimated work items. That, by the way, also may be estimated with the help of bot and ChatGPT based on the analysis of the text description of the previous user stories. Or we can train and fine-tune other model in order to teach it how to define complexity based on the requirements. But that case will be described and shown in the separate demo. So, here in the backlog you can also see that user stories have priorities. And when I plan sprint, I want to take into consideration priorities and plan the user stories with highest priorities and then with lowest. You can see that there are 2 heavy user stories with high priority, 8 story points each. That means, unfortunately, both of them doesn't fit into sprint if our capacity is 14 story points. And in this case, remaining space in sprint should be filled out by user stories with lower priorities. Does it sound logical for you? So, let me ask now our bot to plan sprint 4, considering that our capacity is 14 story points. I decided to use average velocity based on the previous 2 sprints to calculate our capacity for the next sprint. And after a few moments, my bot replies me that sprint was planned, and such stories are included into the sprint 4. The plan was done with respect to team's capacity. Let me open Jira now and make sure that these changes are reflected. So I refresh the page, and I can see that sprint 4 is planned with top priority items for certain story points. And the only thing that is left is to start the sprint. Another user story with high priority for 8 story points unfortunately doesn't fit into the sprint and will be left for the following sprint planning. That's how, using chat interface, I can check average velocity in story points and plan the following sprint. And just keep in mind that this is just one example, and variety of other combinations or options for how you can build your own bot with ChatGPT integration is unlimited. Okay, let's review another example. Now I would like to show you how my bot that is integrated with ChatGPT helps me to manage risks and work with risks on daily basis. Risk management, that is something what is not specific only for Scrum projects. That's why, no matter whether you worked with Scrum before or no, this example should be clear for you in case you are familiar with project management techniques according to PMI. Let me start from the preconditions. In our specific example, I configured a separate board for risk management. On this board, I have only items with risk issue type. This is the custom type that I created. There are 6 risks. Each risk has its own impact and probability configured. And imagine that I want to streamline our conversation and have a chat about risks directly in the messenger with my colleagues. So I can use my bot to ask questions about risks that we have on our project. For example, let's start with simple questions. How many risks we have in total? And when Jira is connected as a data source to the bot, I use ChatGPT linguistic capabilities to understand my request and provide me with the response. In case you set priorities to risks and you need to review risks by priorities, I can ask bot to provide me with the requested information. And you can see that I have one ticket with the highest priority, one with high priority, and the rest of risks have the medium priority. On the Kanban board, you can check how accurate our bot is. And you can see that bot provided us with correct information about priorities. That is because it is smart enough to process the data that is provided to the bot on request. ChatGPT identifies what information is needed and asks my bot to provide necessary information. My bot fetches required information and provides it back to the GPT for the further analysis. That is what is happening in the background. If we want, we can ask to group all risks by statuses, and a few moments after, I receive the response. We can see here a clear breakdown of risk items by statuses. I can request to group risks by impact, and again, I receive information that I need that was analyzed and processed by ChatGPT. And you can ask to analyze any data you need. If you need to group risks by probabilities, you can also ask bot to do so. Believe me, result will be correct. And instead of this, imagine that you want to identify responsible team members who are in charge of risks that are in backlog state. I just want to know names of these heroes and team members in order to follow up with them and ask them to process risks as soon as possible. And I ask this question to my bot. And it replies me that Andrei Petaha is assigned to 2 risks that are in the backlog state now. Now I know the name with whom I need to follow up. I can tag the risk owner here or configure cron job with reminder. For example, each morning responsible people are tagged in case they have risks that are still not processed. This would be ideal for big programs and it will help to boost the communication inside the team significantly. Any team member, even without opening a Jira, can ask a follow-up questions. Like for example, we can request additional details about these 2 risks in order to remember what are they about. And bot provides me with only necessary information in order I can get better context of the risks. In response, I can find information about assignee, risk description, impact, and probability. GPT also knows that each of these risks has its own mitigation plan and response strategies. So let me then clarify these details, and I ask for additional details. and this time I see information about mitigation plan and response strategies included. The interesting thing to remember about is that ChatGPT sometimes generates additional details. For example, in our specific case, response strategy is just a single value from the drop-down. But instead of writing that response strategy is mitigate, we can see that additional text is added. Like in this example, implement measures to mitigate risk, instead of just mitigate. The main idea is delivered correctly, but be aware that GPT can generate additional wording sometimes. In the previous video, I already showed you how we can create Jira issues using chat interface. The same things may be applied here. We can use our bot together with the ChatGPT capabilities to generate risk description, ask GPT to suggest us mitigation plan, and put this data directly into the ticket. I just don't see the reason to demo all similar scenarios. The main thing that I wanted to show you in this video is that you are not bounded to the default types in Jira. You can customize your bot and take advantage of ChatGPT capabilities to build any customized business logic or business flow that you need. That's all for this video. In case you are interested in the topic, check video description and feel free to ask your questions in comments to the video. I hope you enjoyed the video. Put your thumbs up, leave the comments, and follow the channel to not miss other interesting videos. Have a great day. Bye.